So today's webinar, basically, we'll be covering the main topic of becoming a product owner. So whenever we talk about agile, product owner is a term that is very commonly and widely used, and many a times we do get confused and we do have a lot of questions like, is a product owner same as a business analyst, or what exactly are the roles of a product owner? How can I be a product owner? Because nowadays organizations are moving from waterfall to agile, so we have to adapt ourselves with the new methodologies, with the new techniques. And because we are doing that, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of unclarity on different roles which are available in Scrum as well as in agile technologies. So, in this webinar, I'll try and cover the basic concepts of what a product owner is all about, and what the roles and responsibilities of a typical product owner is, and probably how different a product owner and a business analyst roles are. And probably at the end of this session, it will be helpful for you guys to understand more about product owners and then do an appropriate course if you want to get into a product ownership role. Okay. So, so directly jumping into like what a product owner, so who this product owner is and what actually does a product owner's work is on a day-to-day basis. So when I talk about product owner, so he or she is basically a visionary or a doer. So when I say that, it is mainly like, product owner has the product vision in mind. So it's again, if you just think yourself from a product company perspective, it is like more you think that a product owner is leading the product, or he is creating the product vision to determine what the next steps are going to be, probably 1 year down the line, what they are expecting from the product, or what are the new features probably they are planning to add into that product. So again, if we take example of Google or Apple, so these are all big products, and every product is that's there in the market has to have a product vision for it, right? So the product owner is basically a person who actually visualizes the product vision, creates a roadmap, and basically tries and adheres to that. The next bit here is like, of course, he's a leader and a team player, because as a product owner, you also have to do a lot of communication with the team, with the development team, explaining them about what needs to be done and making the product vision clear to the team as well. Because we are not doing a waterfall here, it's agile. And because of this, there is a lot of transparency that has to be maintained when we talk about agile. So from the development team to the stakeholder, everybody should have the product vision clearly in their mind, so that as a team everyone can adhere to the product vision and achieve the goal. Again, the product owner is empowered and committed. So a person who is empowered to take any decisions regarding the product, he can add in new features. So probably if he think that, okay, one particular feature is not giving the required output, that the desired output, he or she can actually change that feature out or remove that feature out. So he's empowered to take such decisions. Of course, he has to be a great communicator as well as a negotiator, because he has to communicate with the stakeholders. Along with that, he also has to communicate with the team who is doing the development. And a product owner should always be available for the team. So because when the development team is in progress of developing the work, probably in between a sprint, in case of any queries, any doubts, a product owner should always be reachable. So this is what a product owner is. And what exactly does a product owner does is like, he or she is constantly working with the team. He or she is constantly collaborating with the scrum masters, basically understanding what is the velocity of the team, what is the capacity of the team, in one sprint, how much of work probably can be done, prioritizing the stories, etc. And simultaneously, a product owner is also working with the customers, with the users and the other stakeholders, to understand the new requirement, to understand the new market trends, and accordingly envisioning the product. So basically, to create the product vision or probably to add new features into the product roadmap, the product owner needs to have a very good clarity about what is the new trends in the market. Probably he might also do some bits of competitor analysis to understand what are the features out there and understanding the market scenarios. Along with that, a product owner also maintains the product backlog. So in Agile, if you're following any method that you follow in Agile, whether it's Scrum or Kanban, the main crux or the main source of requirement is the product backlog that you have. And the product owner is the person who basically creates the product backlog and is constantly working on the product backlog to understand what are the new features that can be enhanced and prioritize the items in the product backlogs. Product owner is also responsible on the planning of the releases because he decides when to do a particular release. For example, like if I am working on a product which is basically an e-commerce product, so I would plan my releases according to the probably the major events. So maybe during Diwali or Christmas, I want to do a major big bang release because I know that I will get, have more customers or more users onto the platform. So planning of the release date is something that is done by the product owner. And of course, collaborating in the sprint meetings, wherein the product owner is explaining the user stories to the team, explaining, the acceptance criteria, the mock-ups, etc. And eventually, when you actually do this, you tend and become a great product owner. Now, when I talk about the responsibilities again, so probably couple of things or on a very high level things that we need to keep in mind is like, again, a product owner is completely managing the product backlog. So the product backlog is the product owner's responsibility. And again, when we talk about product backlog, it is just not the user stories that has to be in the product backlog. It can be any bugs, it can be any tasks as well as spikes. And the product owner is constantly prioritizing it, constantly refining it, and ensuring that he or she is aligning to the product vision. Because the main aim in doing that is to follow the product roadmap and to basically move towards the product vision. So that's the main reason behind it. And of course, product owner creates a shared product vision. So the product vision that's been created, so that is something that needs to be shared not only with the development team. Along with it, it also needs to be clearly explained to the stakeholders, because the stakeholders should understand what value the product is giving you out of it. So it has to be clearly communicated, and it has to be very there has to be a lot of transparency maintained on what the product vision is, in case probably your product strategy or product vision is changing because of certain reasons. That also has to be clearly reflected at all levels. Again, the product owner is responsible for the return of investment, which is the ROI, because he or she needs to clearly understand that, okay, if you're spending X amount of effort and time on one particular feature, is that feature actually worth doing it, or will it actually give a lot of value eventually? So the return on investment is very important in terms of a product owner role, because based on that, he or she will be prioritizing one feature over the other. And as I said, so the product owner also decides upon the release date. So based on any major events that is there, he or she might decide upon, doing a big bang release for a particular feature to promote it into the market. uh, Again, when I talk about product owner, so it's not a group of people. A product owner is always one person that you would have in a team, who is constantly communicating you the requirements, and side by side he's also responsible of managing the product backlog, creating the product vision, and deciding upon your product roadmap. So it's one person doing the complete collaboration. And he is also, apart from collaborating with the team, he is also collaborating continuously with the stakeholders, with the end users, basically, to understand what are the features that would be be of a lot of value, what are the current trends happening in the market, how he can basically maximize the profit for the customers or for the end users. And at the end, he maximizes the work for the dev team. So basically the work or the delivery that the dev team is probably giving, so that work has to be maximized. So basically when we talk about agile, the core concept which is in our mind is like, with minimum delivery we need to get the maximum value. So basically maybe it's just one small feature that you're doing, but that feature probably is of a more value than probably some other deliverable. So the prioritization of the work that you do is very important as a product owner, because the main aim in this case is basically to ensure that whatever is being delivered by the development team, we tend to get the maximum value out of it. So that's what the main crux or the main focus is all about. Talking about some of the competencies that a product owner should have. So again, he or she needs to be a domain expert, because unless and until you understand the business or the domain clearly, you will not be able to, decide upon what the roadmap is going to be, or you'll not be able to create the product vision as such. Again, as we were talking about maximizing the product value, so any feature that you add into the product roadmap. Uh, does it sound clear? I think it's little echoing.
Yeah, it was echoing actually, Ipsita.
Uh, I think somebody will like. It will be good if everyone goes on mute, and then we can take the question answers at the end. I guess that will be helpful. Right. Uh, So, talking about the competencies, so yes, so he or she has to be a domain expert, need to understand the business to the core, because without that, you'll definitely not be able to, realize what value you're getting out of the product, or where exactly you want to take your product to the next level. Again, maximizing the product value. So any new feature that you plan to add into your roadmap, or that has to get the maximum value out of it. So what value probably you're giving to the end user or the end customer who will be using your product is what, uh, as a product owner, you need to understand. And again, you need to have a great communication and influencing skills in terms of communication, because you're constantly communicating with the development team as well as with your stakeholders to understand the, what probably the requirements are, what probably your stakeholders wants to achieve, etc. And influencing skills in the sense, because you basically need to convince people, that okay, let's have this feature because it's going to give me a value add at the end. So the convincing and the influencing skills as well is very important, because as a product owner, you are in between the stakeholders as well as the development team. So you need to influence the product roadmap. The product roadmap that you've created, you have to probably justify it, that probably why you have created a roadmap, why do you think certain features needs to be released. So when you basically decide upon the MVP, why do you think that okay, this is the minimum viable set of features that needs to go live. So you need to convince, you need to influence people. And of course the customer to the product translator. So customer here in the sense is the end users who will be using your product. So basically to understand their mentality, to understand how probably the end users would use the product in which way, and then based on the end users requirement, how you translate that requirement into the product is a product owner's responsibility at the end. Right. Again, talking about the skills that a product owner would have. So something that we've already gone through, but just a quick touch upon is like, again, he or she needs to be a great communicator, because they're constantly communicating with the team. The decision making capacity is very important, because you are the one who's deciding upon, prioritizing different features into your product roadmap. And eventually your focus, you always has to be focused on your product vision. So many times it's like, because get so much involved as a product owner, you get so much involved in the development activities that eventually you tend to lose focus on what the product vision is. So that has to be avoided. As a product owner, your focus is always the product vision and this product goals, and whatever features or whatever work that the development team is doing, it has to basically align with the product vision and the goal. So that is a constant check that needs to be done, and this is basically one of the main work that a product owner should do. There's a constant learning that is involved for a product owner, because you need to upgrade yourself based on the new market changes that's happening. Probably you need to do a lot of competitor analysis, you need to come up with the new trends in the market. So there's this constant learning that you'll have to do. Then results evaluation. So suppose you have released one particular or a set of features into the market, right? Now based on that, probably you'll also have to evaluate whether the value, the perceived value you thought, actually meets the required value or actually meets the actual value. So basically you tend to understand whether once you've gone live with a set of feature, is the value that you had perceived, the product is actually giving you that kind of a value. So if yes, then you probably expand that feature more, or you enhance that feature. If no, then probably you'll again have to go back and think whether you need to continue with the initiative, or whether you want to make some changes, or whether you want to modify it. So that's a conscious decision that needs to be done, and for that you have to constantly evaluate the value of each and every feature that you're releasing out in the market. And eventually a problem solver, because as a product owner you are solving the customers or the end users problem. You know what the requirements are, and you are trying to incorporate those things into the product that you are working on. So that is basically a problem solver mentality. When I talk about collaboration, so again, as a product owner, you have to collaborate a lot. So it's not only that you have to collaborate with the team that you are working on, but there are other bits as well in the organization with which you have to do a constant collaboration. So you're collaborating with the development team, of course, with the scrum masters, basically the scrum team. Along with that, if again, product managers, because if the product is quite big, and probably in big organizations we also have a product manager's role. So there are a couple of product managers who define the marketing strategy of the products and other bits. So in that case, the product owner also has to discuss or collaborate with the product managers as well. Apart from that, there is this constant collaboration that happens with the end users and the customers. Then if your product is already live, and suppose you also need to collaborate with the customer support to understand, okay, what are the support tickets that you're getting, because based on that you can also come up with some new requirements which would ease the life of your users who are using the product. Then also you probably have to communicate with the C-suite level management, wherein you make decisions on whether you need to go live with a feature, what is the management say in that, is the management okay to invest that amount of budget in those cases. And finally the sales and marketing, because you need to communicate with them, because whenever you do a big bang release, the sales and marketing team has to promote the feature out of it. So there's this constant collaboration happening everywhere around the organization. And here, basically, we will be now talking about what is the basic difference when we talk about a product owner and a business analyst. Because many a times we tend to think that, okay, both the roles are the same. But of course, there is an overlap. But again, we cannot say that it's the same role altogether. So, as a business analyst, typically a business analyst role is to write use case or user stories, whatever you're following in the organization, writing down functional specs, doing a lot of more process modeling diagrams, business documentation, requirement gathering, developing training materials. So as a business analyst, my focus is always confined within the requirements. Whatever requirements I have, I'm just trying to expand it, I'm trying to make it more and more clear, so that it becomes easier for the team, and of course it becomes easier for anybody using that particular feature. However, when I talk about a product owner or a product manager, so we'll get into the product manager a little, in couple of minutes. So basically, when I talk about a product owner, the main role is basically doing a portfolio management. So you understand, okay, what is the portfolio. So again, in big companies wherein you have multiple products going on together, so you decide upon the portfolio as well. You decide upon which product, which feature you want to go live, and then what is going to be your product roadmap in that case. You also decide upon the profit and loss, basically how much profit and loss every feature is trying to give you in that particular product, how probably you want to increase your revenue out of the new feature that you are launching. So those kind of bits is always very important. Again, the client management, basically talking to the stakeholders, if possible. You also have to talk to your customers or the end users who will be using the product. So try and get all this information as possible. So client management is a very important role. Product vision, so this is something that we've been repeating again and again. So to understand the product vision is a very and the first and foremost responsibility of the product owner. Backlog grooming, again, when I talk about backlog grooming, it's like you set up a usual frequency, like okay, every week, or probably depends upon every 15 days, whatever shape your backlog is or whatever you think your team is comfortable with. You go through the stories in the backlog. Probably if there are many, you pick up the top 5, you prioritize them, you detail them down. So basically the backlog refining of the stories and prioritization of the stories happens in the backlog grooming meeting, and this is the responsibility of the product owner. And product marketing, so how do you basically market a product? So you're collaborating with your marketing team that okay, probably I want to launch something during Christmas, and then you decide upon the marketing strategies as well. And whatever you build, that has to be customer focused, in the sense it has to generate a lot of value to the end user. And eventually the business generation model, so probably you think about what next, you can go ahead in the business, how you want to expand your current product, what are the probably new features that you would add to increase your business model. So these are the typical work of the or probably the features of the product owner. And of course there are also the overlapping bits wherein the story writing. So a product owner can also be a part of writing user stories. He is also part of the product management for sure, along with the business analyst. And the business analyst at times is also involved in deciding upon the product strategy. So you can also pull in a business analyst to decide upon, okay, this is my roadmap, what is the next steps probably I would do. And eventually both the product owner and the business analyst are system focused. So everything that I'm trying to get is system focused. So everything that I'm trying to get is providing value add to the product and the system that's around. Now, again, coming back to the product manager bit that I was talking about. So now, if it is a small company or it's just one particular product that you are dealing, a small product, in that case, a product owner is fine. But then, if there are big investment or insurance products, wherein the product, one big product itself has multiple sub products into it, and then eventually you integrate. In that case, there is also in some companies they also have roles like product managers introduced. So product managers would directly talk to the product owner, and the product owner does these functions of grooming the backlog, writing down user stories, and then pass it on to the team. So there can be this hierarchy as well. So it's not always like you have a product owner talking directly to the team, or product owner, business analyst, and the team. But when you're dealing with big complex products wherein probably you have to have a lot of lot of scrum teams are there, in that case one product owner cannot manage all those scrum teams in the sense of requirements and the backlog. So in such circumstances, it is advisable that you have a product manager on top who would actually take some of the roles from here of the product owner, like the portfolio management, the marketing bits, probably the profit and loss bits. So these couple of work items can also overlap to a product manager's role as well. Now, the next bit here is like transitioning to becoming a product owner. So basically, there's the four major chunks that we would see. Like, how do you transition yourself? So the four bits are like, of course, from product management. So basically, a product owner is touching upon these four major chunks or these four major components of the system. So product management, when you understand, okay, when the job will be done, because as a product owner you also need to be a part, you also need to involve yourself in some bits of the management as well, because unless and until you know when the work will be delivered, you cannot fit it into your product roadmap. So you need to have a clarity on that as well. Of course, you don't go deep into the things like, what is the capacity of the team, how many developers are working, who is picking up what. You need not go deep into that, but on a high level you need to understand, okay, when will this epic be delivered, so that you can fit it into your product roadmap. In terms of leadership, yes, you are creating a product vision out of it, so you need to actually adhere to that. So that is a very important thing, so this leadership role gets into the picture. In terms of business analyst, of course, you are trying to, you also as a product owner, you also write down stories, you also do your backlog grooming, you are constantly, adding details to the stories, refining the backlog. And in terms of product management, when I talk about here, of course, you are talking to your end users, you're talking to your customers, you're getting as much as information as possible from them, and eventually you are building the product roadmap in this particular process. Now, we'll just couple of challenges that I could list down on a day-to-day basis in the role of a product owner. Is like, you really need to think that, do you have a product roadmap? Although we say all these things that, okay, you need to have a product vision, you need to have a product roadmap, but when we, in practical scenarios, when we are working as a product owner, these are some real practical problems that you would face, and how do you really overcome that? So when you think that, okay, do I really have a product roadmap, do I know where do I go next, probably 6 months down the line, what is the work that I'm trying to achieve, or what is the feature that I'm trying to achieve? Most of the cases it would be a no, because what happens is we get so much involved in, doing the customer requirement. Like, whenever you have launched one big feature, you tend to take feedback from the customer, and probably next 6 months you just spend your time fixing those feedbacks or incorporating those feedbacks that you get from the end customer. So in that case, you're eventually shifting from the product roadmap or the product vision and spending more time in, accommodating the customer needs. So to avoid that, it's like, it's always good that you have a product roadmap ready. Of course, you can modify the product roadmap. It is not that, okay, once you have a product roadmap, you always have to adhere to that, because since we know that it is agile, things keep changing, the market is always changing. So whatever you've planned today might not be valid tomorrow. So things will definitely change, but based on the market research, based on the industry standards and the best practices, try and create a product roadmap. And of course, you need to explain that, or need to, share that with the stakeholders as well as with your team, so that the transparency at all levels are maintained. And then at a frequent intervals, you can basically, revise that roadmap or go through that roadmap with the stakeholders as and when required. Again, the second point here is, not all user stories have equal values. So basically, in this case, we're talking about the edge cases. So it is not like, okay, if you're working on one particular feature, it is not that every user stories for that epic, or every user story, within that feature has to go live together, because there can be some edge case scenarios as well, which is good that you have, highlighted, or you have added into a backlog. But those things cannot, it's okay if you don't add them as a part of your MVP, because in that case, product owner will not be able to you can add it in your backlog, and then in the backlog refinement or the backlog grooming session you can prioritize it. So it's not that, okay, since I know that this epic has to go live and on next month, and this epic has 6 user stories, so it is okay if all 6 are not going. I can at least decide, or I can at least draw the line, what is the minimum viable product or the minimum viable feature within that epic, and just try to push them live. The edge cases, which as a product owner I know will not be used that frequently, or probably will not occur that much, probably once in 100 it might occur, or the frequency better as a product owner. So you can park them aside, and of course you will do it, and once probably you have gone live with the system, and then you can have your backlog grooming sessions and prioritize it and pick it up when the team has bandwidth. And in this process it is also very important, as I said, so my backlog not always consists of user stories or requirements. It also consists of bugs, because the bugs that we get during testing would actually get into the backlog. And of course things, bugs which are not showstopper, would remain in the backlog, and probably it has to be triaged, and then the priority is decided and worked upon. So you can even pick up bugs in the sprint as well, so that's absolutely fine. So the frequent bug triage is something which is very important, which you as a product owner should do it on a regular interval. Third point here is talking about the vague acceptance criteria or too rigid acceptance criteria. So when you write a user story, right? So if the acceptance criteria are very vague, and it's like very open-ended, so there can be a problem of scope creep and over engineering, because it's like very open-ended, and the developers who are working on it can actually do a lot of over engineering, and this eventually leads to scope creep. Again, if the acceptance criteria are too rigid, it's just in a point wise you have written, in that case it doesn't leave you room for innovation, so you're basically killing out the innovation. So to avoid it, as a product owner, when you're writing user stories, try and follow the invest criteria of writing a user story. So when I talk about invest, the I for invest stands for independent. Ensure that when you write stories, these are independent enough, so no two stories are dependent on one another. When I talk about n here is negotiable, because requirements keep changing. As in, we are talking about agile, things will definitely change, so there is never a freezing point to any user stories. So you have to keep that open-endedness always in terms of negotiable. So you always have to keep that in mind, that okay, this, although I'm working on a story, but it might be that the acceptance criteria can change before, just right after, before the sprint, or probably in between the sprint as well. When I talk about, so the in invest is viable. So of course, when you talk about, or when you write a user story, try and project the value that the user story is trying to give you. Because if you do that, it will give a lot of clarity to the developers as well. So they will be able to relate that, okay, this story has a lot of value, or this is the value, or this is the requirement that we're looking for on a very high level. So try and explain the value, the business value or the customer value in the user story itself. And it should have enough details so that it can be estimated. So the invest E stands for estimated. So you need to have enough details, so that, probably details in terms of mockups, wireframes, validation messages, so that the development team can easily estimate the story. And when you write down the story, it has to be small enough. The S stands for small, wherein the stories can be completed within the 2 week sprint, probably, if you're having. So within the sprint duration, you're able to complete the user story. And T, so you need to write down the acceptance criteria or the detailing down of the stories as such, wherein it can be easily testable. So the testing team can easily write down their test scenarios based on the information provided in the story. So you need to keep certain things in mind while you're writing user stories. The fourth point here is like, spending too much time in detailing with the product support instead of the product grooming. So again, this is a practical problem that happens, is like, you know, when you've released the first version of the product, or probably your product is already out there in the market, you tend to spend so much time with the product support, because probably there would be a lot of support tickets coming in the maintenance phase, and you try to fix them every now and then. So then people start working in silos. So you have a development team who is trying and working on the product roadmap. There is this production support team who is basically spending a lot of time answering to these probably the customer queries, and the management team or the marketing team in a different ways trying to promote the product in all different way. So why this problem has occurred? Because there have never been a sync between these three departments. So probably when the marketing team had marketed or promoted the product, they weren't clear about what value add that feature is going to give. When the production support team probably is not very clear about answering the queries to the customers, because they are not very sure about, what exactly the value add or the feature is going to benefit, or how it's going to benefit the end users. And of course your development team uh, is trying and adhering to the product roadmap. So to avoid that, whenever you do backlog grooming, or whenever you're doing a backlog refinement meeting, try and get as much people as possible, so that everybody is on the same page. Everybody knows, okay, this is the next feature that probably is going live in next 2 months, and this is the value add that this feature is going to give to the product. So everybody needs to be on the same page in terms of the big releases that we do, and what benefit that value is trying to give in terms of the end user or the customer. And the last point that we here is the changing priority while the sprint is in progress. So this is a very practical problem, and this will always be there. You cannot say a no to this, because the term agile actually says it's agile. So it requirements will change. You cannot stop that. So to avoid this, avoid changing in priority within the sprints, and change in requirements, it is good that the sprint duration that you have, keep it as minimum as possible, maybe a minimum of 2 weeks, so that you're just able to finish a set amount of user stories in 2 weeks, demonstrate it to your product owners, put it live, and then work on the next bit. So the more time frame that you give in a sprint, so if you're keeping a sprint of 4 weeks or 6 weeks, so in that case the chance of changing, or the chance of the priorities getting changed, or the requirements getting changed, are very much high. Because as we know that things are very dynamic out in the market, things are always changing, because there's a change in the market trends, there's a lot of new things getting innovated. So whatever is valid today, maybe 3 days or maybe 1 week down the line might not be valid, because probably your stakeholders might realize that, okay, this feature, although the team is working upon, but my competitor has already released a similar kind of a feature, so it doesn't make sense that I go with the exact feature, so I'll have to change it. So things are very dynamic. So that's the reason, keep the sprint duration as small as possible. And this will basically avoid these couple of challenges which are there. Now, coming to the certification, so here is a list of certifications that you guys can do if you want to go ahead with a product owner role. So there is this certified product owner by Product Manager HQ. Then there is from scrum.org, you can get a professional Scrum product owner certification. Similarly, from Scrum Alliance, you can get a certified Scrum product owner. So it's like both are Scrum product owners, but they are provided from the different organization. One is from Scrum Alliance, one is from scrum.org. You can also do a safe product owner, which is nothing. Safe here is scaled agile framework. You can also get a PMI Agile certified practitioner. And this one is very new. It's going to get launched in June next month, which is a certificate in product owner and ownership analysis by IIBA. So probably, I guess once we get more information, Techcanvass can send you detailed email of this certification, because it's launching from next month. So the details can be sent across to the participants, whoever are interested maybe. So these are a couple of certifications which you guys can do if you're thinking of this role. So now I think we can get into the question answer sessions.
Yes, Ipshita, I guess there are many questions in the chat box.
Yes,
So
I'll just take them one by one,
if you can just,
starting from the
yeah,
top. Yeah. So
yeah,
why
sure.
does PO continuously communicate with the SM? On what topics do they communicate? So it's not a continuous communication as such, but there has to be a communication in the sense, because if I know that, as a product owner, you've written down the user stories, you know that, okay, these 5 user stories are being developed by the sprint team, or probably by the development team, and your sprint is of 2 weeks, right? So in that case, you need to ensure that whether you are whether the team will be able to finish those in 2 weeks. Are there any impediments? Probably, suddenly there can be people going on leave, or probably there can be some changes in requirements. So for all these reasons, you have to, as a product owner, you also have to communicate with the scrum master to ensure that, okay, whatever has been committed into the sprint, are we adhering to those deadlines in that basis? So sometimes it might also happen that, as a scrum master, so usually the scrum master is responsible of deciding upon the product velocity, sorry, the team velocity and the capacity, right? So if there a couple of team members are going on leave, probably it's a festive season, so during that sprint, you need to communicate, the scrum master will have to communicate to the product owner that, okay, my capacity of the team is really low for this sprint, so I will not be able to take 5 6 stories, probably I'll just take 1 or 2. So that kind of a collaboration has to be there. Does this clear your question, Anna?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, and velocity is something, yes, you're right. Velocity is something that the Scrum Master calculates. And based on the velocity, of course, you decide, okay, this probably my velocity of the team is 25, and I have 5 team members. So based on that, I know that every team member can work upon you know, each story of worth 5 story points. So when a product owner is actually setting up the sprint backlog, so he or she can based on the velocity, she can decide upon. And also he knows what exactly based on the team's capacity, how much stories the team can handle, or how much story the team can work upon. Okay, the
Thank
next
you.
question. Great. The next question is, how easy or difficult is for a BA to become a product owner? It is, I won't say it is difficult enough. It is quite easy, because you're already a business analyst. If you're already working in a business analyst role, you're already handling requirements, you're already talking to your team, you're already ensuring that you give enough details to the team to work upon. The only bit is, like, as a product owner, you're just moving one step up, because now you are also thinking of on a product perspective. Probably in a typical BA role, you are more confined into the requirements that you get from your stakeholders, and you try to expand on those, and you write down your use case or user stories and communicate it with the team. But with a product owner role, your responsibilities increases to a next level, wherein along with your stakeholders, you are also playing a part as a product visionary. You're also playing a part, creating the product roadmap. You can also do a lot of competitor analysis. You can understand what the market trends are. So basically, it would be quite interesting, and basically it is advisable that if you are a business analyst, you should, as a next step, you should try and become a product owner, because it will actually give you, not only increase your or enhance your learning, but also give you a lot of value add in your profile. uh, is this clear, or do you have any other questions, Bismay?
Yeah, yeah, it is clear. Thanks, Ipsita. And one more question I have, see, in Indian context, most of the product owner are from the client side. So,
Yes.
considering that, is it advisable to go into a product owner role? Means, how is the
So
job market?
what they are doing at the moment is, like, although I understand that most of the product owners are in the client side, but what they do currently is, like, now that they're following this agile trend, most of the projects, in fact all projects in whichever company you go in, even in India, the agile process or technology is what they're following as a software development method. And whenever we talk about agile. Of course, the business a typical designation as a BA is gradually fading out, and there's this proxy product owner coming into the picture, so the PPO, who is basically talking to the product owner from the client side and passing on the requirements. So a typical business analyst, what it used to be, it's now a proxy product owner. And apart from that, of course, it will be more driven. If you're working for a service company, the decisions will be more driven from the customers or the client, I understand. But since you are also a bit of, you also gain a lot of understanding of the product, so you can also at times guide your customers or guide your clients in that basis. So it is always good that you have that knowledge, because you can give a valuable inputs to your product owners, and then probably this eventually helps in strengthening up the relationship and the bond. So gradually, I would suggest that if you are already a business analyst, it's good that you get into this product owner role. Although in a practical sense, you might not work as a typical product owner, doing a market analysis, or understanding what profit and loss a feature is going to be, because that will be more really driven by the customer or the client for whom you're working. But at least you will have a lot of understanding about the product, about the domain that you're working on.
Okay, sure. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, great. Is there any company there should in any company there should be only one product owner? So again, for to answer this question, it's like for one product you should have one product owner. It's not a company wide, because suppose if my company is big, so again, talking about Apple probably, right? So they have so many products. So they have an iPad launching, they have a MacBook launching, they have new, these different iPhones, etc. So every product needs to have a one product owner. And but again, if your product is too big, for example, right, on a very practical sense, if my product is too big and the product itself is broken down, so suppose a web product and a mobile app, so in that case there are two different products altogether, although they are close knit, because the same web application is becoming a mobile app. But then there can be a situation where you can have a separate product owner for the web application, and you can have a separate product owner for the mobile application. So it's like every product you need to have one product owner. So because a product owner is responsible of the product backlog, because you will definitely not use the same product backlog for a web development team and a mobile development team. So there's going to be two different backlogs, right? So the more number of backlogs you create, you need to have individual product owners for that. Does it answer the question? Okay. Uh,
Yes, Ikshit, I guess
moving. Okay.
you're good on that.
Uh, Next, moving on to the next one, can one person serve in both the roles? If yes, then why do we need a BA if I have a product owner? So again, on other practical scenarios, you probably need to have, sometimes you might need to have a BA, because as we were talking, like, to Bismay, mostly service companies that we work for, the product owner is at the client location. So in that case, you need to have a BA who will be constantly working with BA or a proxy product owner nowadays, as they term. So who will be constantly working with the development team to explain them what the requirement is, how to work about, and also simultaneously working with the product owner to ensure what the product roadmap is, what value the product is trying to give them. So it's, if you are in this kind of a setup wherein you're working for a service company, then of course it is recommended that you have a BA or a proxy product owner. However, if it is a product company for which you're working, a complete different product altogether, a sole product like Apple or Google, in that case you need not have a BA. The product owner themselves can communicate and can maintain the product backlog and things like that. Does this answer your question, Shikha?
Yes, Akshita.
Okay,
I
great,
got the clarity. Thank you.
great, welcome. The next question, the PO should be only in a product company or in a service. So it's like the same thing which I said. So it is not necessary that you have to have a a PO in the product company. You can also, it depends on the designations that are defined in the company that you're working for. So there can be different levels as well. So again, and depends upon how big or how complex the product that you're working for. So in service companies, you can have the role of a proxy product owner, or you can even term them as POs as well. It depends upon what structure your company is following. But at the end, basically, as I said, that product owner can suffice alone if it is just a product company altogether. But if it is service based company, you need to do, the communication actually increases. You have to do a lot of collaboration and communicate with the team. So it's good that you have a proxy product owner as well in a product, in the service company. Okay. Yeah. So next one is, because PO has many responsibilities, BA can do PO roles with BA activities. So BA can be exactly what I just said. That's what you're just, yeah. So but advisable in agile methodologies, there should be different designated as BAs as a part of Scrum team, and a PO. Can you just expand on this? I'm not sure, the name is also not coming up. Like what exactly you're trying to say? Or is the user still in?
I guess this person is not there in the call now.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, the next question is, PO is not only for product based company. Yes, any Scrum roles can also have a PO role. Exactly. So any team that you follow can also have a PO role. It's just that the names that gets changed. So it's always not for the product company. You can also have POs for service companies as well. So if you're doing a mobile app development, you can have a separate PO. So wherever you're maintaining a backlog for Scrum or for any Kanban, whenever you're maintaining a backlog for any agile processes, you need to have a PO, because the backlog is maintained by the PO itself. Should PO be from the client side? But it again depends. So it again, as I said, so the roles and designations changes from different companies. So sometimes it can be like you have a product manager sort of a role in the client side, and then you have a PO role in the service side. That is also possible. But eventually it turns out that okay, it the names are different, but eventually the role that they play is the same thing. So it's not necessary that the PO has to be from the client side. You can have a proxy product owner as well, or a product owner. You can call a product owner as well into your, the service side as well. So is the IIBA PO certification same across, which is provided by Scrum.org or Scrum Alliance? So probably we haven't got much more clarity because it's not yet launched. But of course, some bits will definitely be same, and I'm sure that they would actually be some enhancements as well, or some more additions in the IIBA PO rule. That's what I'm expecting. But more or less, the certification that is provided by Scrum.org or Scrum Alliance will definitely, the syllabus will overlap at one point, but there can be some additional bits as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so Kamen is asking, which is better, the CSPO or the PSPO? So again, it depends on your, choices. Again, both have their own pros and cons. Again, CSPO is something that you'll probably regularly have to renew it. However, PSPO is, once you get that certification, it is there for the lifetime. But more or less, the syllabus for both are the same, and both have the equal, weightage out in the market. So it's like, it's basically both, I would say, the same thing. But again, depends on your, the time that you're spending, and when you want to pick up the certification and stuff like that. Okay, so there is One more question. So, having an experience of 6 years as a functional BA, what additional requirement is needed to transform into a product owner? Will it require to have additional skills with people management apart from process management? So, basically, you've been a functional BA, but what probably to move to the next level, what you need to do to transform into a product owner is basically to have more knowledge about, the strategic decisions that are being made, to understand, to have a good knowledge about the domain, what value add probably, your product, be it you're working for a service company as well, but whatever the product that for the customer that you're building, what value add is it giving to the end users who are using it? So that kind of a bit to upgrade yourself. Maybe you need to understand more about the market, do a lot of competitor analysis, a market research study. So all these things will help you to gain knowledge, and only then you can, play a part on the decision making role as well, as when to launch which feature probably will give a lot of value add. So of course people management is important in the term of, because you're coordinating with the team, but I would say people and process management in that case, if you're looking as a core product owner role, it won't be that much of a problem, because what you need to know is more about the product that you're building. So it's more about the return on investment, what is the value add, doing a profit and loss probably, things like that. Does this answer the question? Okay, maybe we'll go to the next one. Do we get a certificate for this webinar? Do we get it, Brijesh? I am not sure.
No, actually, Akshita, as of now, there is no plan to give any certificate for any webinar.
Right. Okay. The next question from Nilesh. The problem with PO roles sitting offshore being there is a heavy dependency on the on-site PO or the on-site product manager who's interacting with the business directly. So sitting offshore, it's difficult for the offshore PO to get the product vision or the competitor analysis. Your thoughts? So again, I guess I understand the offshore and onshore bit, because you probably will not be directly going and talking to the marketing team because you're in offshore, and maybe you cannot even go and interview end users who are using the product. So there are problems, definitely. But then again, now that we are all used to the new normal of the pandemic, everything is being the same. So whether in onshore or offshore, we are all sitting at home and working. So I understand that there are challenges, but then there are also ways on how you mitigate it. So you can collaborate with your POs onshore, and be a part of the competitor analysis as well. The only problem which I see is probably interacting with your end customers, because most of the time you'll not get a chance to do that. But of course, I guess the more you collaborate, probably you might have to go one step ahead to increase the collaboration if you feel that there is a lot of gap that is being created in case of understanding with your onshore PO and you who is offshore. So there's a lot of collaboration, probably you can do it. You can even interact them on a daily basis, have your daily catch ups, and have your backlog grooming much more frequent in that case, and have transparency as much as possible.
Thanks. I
Does
appreciate your
this?
response.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
uh, The next one is, which is the most valuable certification? So of course, see, you cannot say that okay, this is very lot of value add and this is not, because again, agile. So the certificate value also keeps changing, because every now and then new things are launching up. So you can pick and choose, go through the links, go through the syllabus, or the topics that each and every certificate is covering, and based on the scenarios that suits you. Uh, and your current situation, you can pick up a certification and go ahead. Because probably if you want to become a PO, what you need to do is like, you the list of certifications that we have listed down, just go through the syllabus, read through it, and the ones which you feel is more, the ones with which you can relate to more based on the day-to-day work that you do, you can pick those up. That will eventually give you value in your workplace. Does that make sense, Vincent? Okay, not sure if
Yeah,
still
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Good, great. Next is from Mike. In my experience with Agile, cross functionality is encouraged in the sense the Scrum team doesn't ask for a DBA, an engineer, QA, UX designer. Everybody should be able to complement each other and craft. Yes, that is definitely right. IIBA defines a business analyst as anybody who, right. I completely agree to what you're saying, that again the cross functional team is what has been encouraged. And but again, coming back to the practical problems and the practical situations that we face in India, if you're there, we're still not reached to that level. So probably, you still need a DBA, because the profiles that you see, a Java developer will not be able to do a DBA work, and probably you still need a UI UX designer. So Agile does say that eventually this is where we need to aim at, because one person should be able to do everything by themselves. But probably it will take time, and we're still trying and working towards it. But of course, it's a very far off to reach to that level, especially if you're in a service company wherein you have a fixed bid project, and typically when your delivery manager is defining the budget, they would do it based on these resource management bits as well. So to come to this level, what I would say the biggest and the most important thing is a change of mindset. Because although most of the companies are following Agile, but many of them have not been able to adapt the Agile mindset, because we still have that hierarchy, we still have the management on top, we still have project managers, who is guiding and doing, deciding, okay, how many team members do I have a test team, and there's always a discrimination. We still have a test and a dev team in most software companies even till date. However, Agile says that there just has to be one development team doing everything. So this is something that the Agile says and promotes, but again, on a practical scenario, it will take time for companies to come to this level. Okay, so do you have any template of product vision or a sample? So of course, there are a lot of ways in which you can create a product vision. So again, it is there is no proper defined template as such, but then it can be just one-liners as well. So again, maybe when I talk about an iPad, or probably when I talk about an Apple iPod product. So probably the product vision, probably it could be music on the go. So just one liner which tells you what you want to do. That's the important bit. So what your work, or what probably your product is trying to achieve. So that's what a product vision is. And of course, it can be more than one liner as well. It can be, you can actually write paragraphs as well, that this is what I want to do. Currently I am having this features in my product, and I want to make it more digitalized, or probably create a mobile app. So it can be as simple as possible, or it can be as crisp and clear as one liner punches. Or probably if you're doing a big bang product release, you can even spend a lot of time deciding upon what the logo of your product is going to be, what color schemes probably you want to use. So again, there is no defined template or any defined thing that you can follow, but of course you can Google it out and you can see what product visions does these big products have, like Google and stuff like that. So that will help you to think on those lines. But there's no do and don'ts that okay, this is what it has to be. Okay, just one question has just arrived. Is like, I'm pursuing MBA. What main tools we need to get a job? Can you just expand on this, Vaishali? Like what exactly you're looking for? Hello. Okay, not sure.
Actually, there was a question from YouTube channel. So, what is the difference between project management manager and product owner?
Right. So project manager is more into the management skills. He's more into what resources, or how many team members are there in the particular dev team, how much they are able to deliver, and probably the budgeting and the finance of the project that is going on. But a product owner is more or completely into the product roadmap. Okay, what the product is, value that I'm going to achieve. Okay, when I'm going to launch this particular product, right? So what is the product roadmap that I'm following? So there's this clear distinct difference between a project manager and a product owner. A product owner is completely focused onto the product growth, the product value, the product backlog. A project manager will never interfere into what the product backlog is, or when they are releasing, or what the product roadmap they are trying to follow. A project manager in the sense will actually completely look into the teams working, the day to day the team is facing a problem, or probably who are the team members going on leave, is the project deadlines being met in terms of what has been defined. So it's completely a management role altogether in terms of budget and finance as well. So if you're doing a fixed bid project, it's project manager's responsibility to ensure whether how much resources have been utilized and things like that. However, a product owner will definitely not do these kind of work. So product owner is always into the value adds that the product will give. When I can release the product, okay, it's Christmas, so let me release this feature because this will add a lot of value to my end customers. That's a major difference.
Thanks, Ikshita.
Any other questions?
We don't see any question coming up now. I guess we are good now, Ikshita.
Okay.
Anyone has any questions? They can unmute themselves and they can ask. If they have anything, they can send in the chat box also.
Yeah.
All right, Ikshita. I guess we are good now.
Okay. Okay, then thank you.
Yep. So thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Ikshita, if you can stop the recording and close the meeting.
Yes, yes, just trying to do that. Yeah.
Thanks.